In 2025, I started my first year of proper wildlife adventures, going in search of amazing creatures around my former home region of the Hunter Valley and Port Stephens, as well as a few other locations here and there, and I managed to find some truly incredible animals, from beautiful birds to amazing reptiles and mammals. I've now formulated a top 10 of my favourite finds from 2025. Now, I didn't have a film camera at this time, so we're going to look at the photographs I got of each of these animals, and there are some sightings that lack photos, simply because they were that unexpected. But I will describe the situation I was in at the time of seeing this animal, and so let's begin with number 10. Number 10 is the Great Crested Grebe. So it's an animal I've never seen before. And this specific subspecies is the Australasian Great Crested Grebe. Now they're what's known as a cosmopolitan bird, which basically means they have a distribution covering multiple continents, as the Great Crested Grebe is found across Eurasia, Africa and Oceania. This bird was spotted cruising along the surface of the Grahamstown Dam just outside of Newcastle in New South Wales. Now, these birds tend to be more abundant in the winter months and in the spring as they move from inland breeding grounds such as large lakes and ponds where they rear their young to more coastal areas to take advantage of food abundances. This bird's courtship displays are well known as some of the most complex and beautiful performances by any bird, with both partners standing upright and paddling up out of the water, with each holding a piece of pond vegetation, while also expanding a ruff of orange to black feathers as part of their display, and standing on end their dark feathery crest. But I've wanted to see one of these since I learned about them in a bird book that I got when I think I was 10 years old. I saw them in there and thought, this is a bird I really want to see, because I thought they just looked so cool. But it was just a shame that it was a little too far away to get a great shot of. This encounter was one of my most special of 2025, when I encountered a short-beaked echidna up in Armidale, and he really was not too fussed by my presence and actually came right up to me. Echidnas are quite a shy species, normally curling up in a spiny ball, but this guy simply continued his foraging. I had never been this close to a wild echidna before, and so I count it as one of my favourite sightings. Now, I didn't pat the animal, as the act of patting a wild animal both induces stress on it, as especially shy animals like the echidna do not enjoy the experience and are not as used to humans as those in captivity. So my motto is generally enjoy the animal in front of you without patting them, as you can still enjoy an animal's presence without having to physically interact with them. But this echidna was such a joy to spend some time with, and I hope to have an experience like this with more Australian wildlife. One experience that had me spring into action was this lace monitor, also known as the goanna. This was the first substantial monitor lizard I had seen this past spring, and it certainly didn't disappoint. I was simply doing some yard work when I happened to look up and spot this guy crossing the road, and so ran inside, grabbed the camera, and legged it down the road to try and see it before it disappeared. And thankfully I managed to reach it in time and was able to see it as it had climbed up this gum tree, allowing me to get a really good view of it. So lace monitors are easily one of the most vividly patterned of all Australian monitor lizards, with those thin stripes that run along the body. I've seen many monitors in the past, but getting this perfect of a view of this individual was just a high point of the year for me, as I'd been searching for them for a good few weeks before this and not found them. Except for one that I did see at a great distance, but it proceeded to disappear before I could get a good shot of it. But yeah, 2025 was certainly a good reptile year. Further demonstrated by this, the red-bellied black snake. Now, these elapids are one of the most common of Australia's venomous snakes, but not a very aggressive species, tending to just mind their own business generally. So I saw 3 this year, one on the rail trail during an afternoon stroll along it, as well as another that slithered through leaf litter at the edge of a fence. But this sighting was my favourite, as this snake in particular was fully visible, but was also actively hunting, slithering its way through a gully that is a major drainage point from the dam just up the hill from it. And there were lots of frogs down in there for the snake to feed on. But for those of you thinking you come to Australia and are just going to be tripping over snakes at every corner, you're not, because these were the only 3 snakes I saw in 2025, with the rest remaining elusive. Now, some other people in my family did see a carpet python, another saw a death adder, but the notorious ones like the brown snakes and the death adder were hard to come by for me. But if you see a snake, simply keep a safe distance and observe it from that distance, as the snake will just proceed on its way, searching for the next prey item to appear on its path. But this was really cool, as I really have not seen a lot of wild snakes in my lifetime, but getting to see this individual in this sort of scenario was just really cool, as it was very unexpected. I was simply on a morning walk. I was strolling down the street, and then I looked to my left, and boom, there it was, just slithering through the gully. And I froze initially, but then I was simply just like, okay, there's a snake there. Don't get too close. I'll see if I can get a good photo from this distance. And that's the approach that I think you should take when you encounter a snake in the wild that you can see from a distance. But yeah, this was certainly one of my favorites. Now, this one, number 6, is one of the coolest sightings of the year for me personally. As an avid birder, a nesting pair of sea eagles on a transmission tower is pretty cool. So, this was at a spot in the Hunter Wetlands National Park called the Riverside Park, where you can see the nest from this small parking area, but you also have the opportunity to potentially see them hunting in the river below. I saw many sea eagles throughout 2025 with multiple pairs in several locations. I even saw some alongside some planes, but that's a story for another time. But this site was my favourite, as you could see the next generation of Australia's second largest eagle in the making. It was really a great experience seeing these eagles, as I had the moment all to myself, and I could say getting 2 sea eagles at once is certainly a real treat. So number 5 is one that I don't know many of you will have heard of before. So this is the far eastern curlew. It is one of the most endangered of Australia's shorebirds, and you really have to pick your locations well and time your arrival correctly, as these birds are migratory and there are only around 21,000 birds left in the world, with only 900 or so arriving in the Hunter Wetlands National Park in the spring, with one of the best spots being the Stockton Sandspit. Now, you'll tend to get your best views in the morning, which is what I did, and I certainly got a wonderful sight. There were over 30 of these birds that were landed at this time, having roosted through the night. But it was sort of an anticlimactic experience, as I'd seen how rare these birds were in my research, but when I arrived, they were just right there in front of me. I was prepared to wait for hours for these birds to appear, but saw them within 30 seconds. So it was an interesting experience, but it was still a privilege to see these birds here, as they are so rare and the largest of the curlews. And if we protect their important migration sites, this species may be able to recover and continue to survive for years to come. But these birds were not the only ones I saw, so I did actually encounter the curlews about 3 times in 2025. So I saw them at the Stockton Sandspit on my first initial search for them. I saw them again on my second search, and then I also encountered them when I went to the Ramsar site, which is on Ash Island, where there's this whole big mud flat where all these migratory birds tend to gather, and there were 2 off in one of the ponds that had landed just a few minutes before we arrived, and so that was really cool to see it there. 4th is one of my favourite Australian birds, the black-necked stork, also called the jabiru, which is a name that actually belongs to a species of stork from South America, but either way, this species is one of our largest wetland birds and in the top 5 largest flying birds on the continent, excluding seabirds like wandering albatross and that. And they are certainly impressive, as I have seen one of these flying overhead once, and yeah, they are massive. Now, in New South Wales, which is the state I'm from, the stork is a fairly rare sight, being locally extinct in some areas where it was previously quite common. Now generally confined to protected areas such as where I saw this pair, the Hunter Wetlands National Park, an area covering a huge mangrove forest but also a large marshland which are separated by a railway and various roads, some of which are fairly difficult to access, such as the Pipeline Road, which is currently a bit obstructed due to an overpass development. But that spot is very good for seeing several wetland birds, including one that I was searching for this year, the Australasian bittern, which I unfortunately didn't see, but I will see it one day. So on this day, I had actually seen a black-necked stork earlier in the morning, so it was a younger animal and fairly far away from this pair, along a spot called the Rail Trail, which is where I saw one of the black snakes, which was an old offshoot from the main railway that has since been decommissioned and much of the track removed. But it was when I was coming back from seeing a few seabirds at the Stockton Sandspit, like Caspian terns, bar-tailed godwits and red knots, we were passing through an area called the Tomago Wetlands, a subsection of the national park, and I looked out the window of the car and saw this pair of adults standing at the edge of a pond, and so found a safe spot to pull over, and I ran with the camera to go get a shot of them, which is this picture you see here. Totally out of the blue, but very much welcome. So we have a breeding pair here. The male on the left has the dark eyes, and the female on the right has those bright yellow eyes that are really sort of iconic of this species. So a lot of depictions you see of these storks, it will often be the female because they have those bright eyes. So now I had seen black-necked storks in the wild previously before this day, but I had never seen a pair of fully mature individuals together in a spot. But this was a great find and shows how valuable national parks are for protecting suitable habitat for threatened wildlife such as this. So we've made it to the top 3, and the first of the top 3 does not have a photo. So to go along with this, as this one happened so unexpectedly, and it was so fleeting that there was no way I could have prepared for it. So basically how the story goes, I'm on a train, headed up north through some beautiful Australian bushland habitat. I'm seeing all these wonderful animals from the train, like wallabies, kangaroos, wallaroos. I even managed to see 3 species in one spot, a grey kangaroo, a redneck wallaby and a swamp wallaby all in the same spot. But at one point the train goes across a bridge at a spot called Woolbrook over the Macdonald River up there. And so as this train is crossing this old rusted bridge, I look down to the water, and to my complete surprise, a platypus came up to the surface of the water, and then as we came across, it then immediately ducked back under. It was so quick that I had no time to even just grab my phone and open the camera, as I was just caught completely off guard by this platypus. But now I know that the area has at least one resident platypus, and so who knows, I might decide to return to that location to try and see it again. As on the train ride, it unfortunately didn't show itself, the train ride back. But yeah, the platypus though is an animal I definitely want to feature on the channel, both just spotting and filming one. But yeah, I ranked this one at 3rd simply because it was so unexpected, and it was an animal I had been looking for not too long prior to this trip. But yeah, it's an animal that remains unfinished business. Number 2 is another animal I did not get a photo of, and that is the grey nurse shark. Now, grey nurse sharks are easily one of the most iconic marine animals in Australian waters, but also one of the most endangered, being a critically endangered species here and worldwide, and one that has had special protections placed upon them to hopefully ensure they can continue to thrive in our ocean. So yeah, I don't have a photo as I hadn't yet unpacked the GoPro that I used for the Stingray video, but this was at the same snorkel site, the Terrigal Haven on the Central Coast. Beautiful place when sea conditions are right, and great for seeing animals like stingrays and a range of different fish. But this was my initial dive at the Haven, so this was my first time going there, and I saw a good number of different fish, but also a smooth stingray of a decent size. But towards the end of this swim, I was swimming over some seagrass towards the edge of the main route that rescue boats get out into the water through, and I initially just saw the snout below me. I looked down, and there it is. I see the distinct eyes and body shape of a grey nurse shark. It was about 1.5 meters long, so not a fully grown individual, but adults exceed to about 3 meters in length. But the whole experience actually looked very similar to this picture here. But I wasn't able to spend much time with it as the shark turned around and returned to the deeper water. This was easily one of the most unexpected but truly amazing sightings I got this year, as the grey nurse shark has been a bucket list animal for me to see in the wild here in Australia for a very long time. And I really do hope to see more in the future, and we will be going in search of them in future videos, as they are just such incredible animals, you can't just see them once. I'd also like to put some honourable mentions here. So One is this shot I got of a pair of wedge-tailed eagles that were perched very prominently on the branch of a large dead eucalypt, and it was just such a great opportunity to get a good shot of these amazing birds, as usually they're high up in the sky and it's hard to properly focus on them. But yeah, it was great to see this pair here. Then a bird that I'm not sure too many people would be familiar with, the Pacific golden plover, a migratory bird in which males, mature males that is, have a dark underside and almost metallic gold feathers on the back and wings, which give it its name. This one I saw, I believe, is a female, but this was one of the birds I was hoping to encounter during the spring, with others being the likes of the curlew, avocets, and bittern. Those latter two I did unfortunately manage to not see. One of the most exciting birds I saw this year was the azure kingfisher. So azure kingfishers are simply a beautiful bird, and I saw this one when I was out spotting for platypus, and this fella more than made up for the lack of platypi spotted on that day, and I was able to really capture just how bright and vibrant its plumage is. And they're simply one of my favourite looking Australian birds, like a flying jewel. One of my most exciting finds was a pair of lesser long-eared bats roosting under some old canvases that were in one of my old sheds, and they were just a beautiful find. I haven't had many good opportunities to observe bats in the wild, but seeing these ones was a real treat. And yeah, do not touch bats. Bats do carry lyssavirus, which is a very dangerous disease, so never touch them. Please, never do it. So another exciting bird from this year was the Brahminy kite, a species like the kingfisher, long-eared bats, and golden plover I had never seen in the wild before, and it was just such a stunning sight. And I thought it was an osprey initially, because I was looking for ospreys at the same time, and they have some of the best plumage of all kite species. So just a really nice maroon on the wings and the body, then with that white head and chest. So the last honourable mention is this brush-tailed possum I found inside of the hollow of a mangrove tree, and it was a funny experience because I was just looking in hollows trying to see if there was anything in there, and I look into this one and I see this guy just looking out at me, and I think you can tell this guy just wasn't too happy to see me, looking at me with a lot of irritation behind those eyes. So I promptly left after getting this photo to let him enjoy the rest of his sleep for a long night ahead. However, my number one sight of an animal in 2025, and simply most unexpected, was this: a leucistic red-necked wallaby. An animal sporting a genetic mutation is rare enough, but this is one of the only individuals in this population, and the only one that I saw, as there was quite a thriving population of red-necked wallabies in this area, with a good number coming past my previous home. So this is up along the Williams River, up Dungog Way. But basically how I managed to spot this guy was I was driving down the road as usual. It was morning and the sunrise had illuminated the hillside, and I simply caught this white shape hopping across it, and lo and behold, it was this wallaby. So I stopped at the hillside and managed to get this shot of it before it retreated into the forest. But just because of how unexpected and how rare of a sight this is, it had to be my number one, as I don't think I'll be seeing another one of these wallabies for a very long time. And yeah, we'll see what 2026 holds to potentially top it, but yeah, this was a really rare find. So that is my top 10 list for 2025. Loads of cool species I managed to see, and we'll see what we managed to do in 2026, because yeah, I do have plans to go see quite a few different animals in a variety of different spots. So I intend to revisit the grey nurse sharks. I hope to potentially see giant cuttlefish, some seahorses. So there's some seahorses that live down in Sydney that I'm hoping to go film. Powerful owl and greater glider are certainly up there as animals I wouldn't mind seeing, as well as a koala. Would not mind a koala. Platypus too, and possibly a weedy sea dragon. I'd say weedy sea dragon is at the top of my list for animals I want to see, because they're just that iconic that I really do want to see one. Whether it's this year or next year or just any other year, this channel has just started, so we've got plenty of time to be looking for these animals. But yeah, let me know what animals you think I should look for, and keep it to Australia because, well, I can't go see much else outside of the country. So let me know what you think I should go looking for in New South Wales and possibly other spots as well. But yeah, I will see you in the next one. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I would appreciate a like if you enjoyed the video. But yeah, see you in the next adventure.